Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? As I fix my camera. Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. I want to say thank you for taking the time out to check out this episode. I really do appreciate it, man. Much love to everybody here. Shouts out to everybody that checked out the NFC South Roundtable on Tuesday night. Me alongside my guys Smitty, Clay, and James, man, breaking down the NFC South. Shouts out to them. And if you haven't subscribed to that channel, make sure you do so. Also, shouts out to everybody that has subscribed to the Gumbo Pie Sports podcast. Really do appreciate that as well. But on this edition, we're going to be talking a little bit about wide receiver Davante Adams. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already heard that Davante Adams has requested a trade, and the Raiders seem like they are going to oblige with that. We've heard so many different rumors surrounding Davante Adams since that story has broken, and there are two teams that are on the radar of Davante Adams, and one of those teams are the New Orleans Saints, and we're going to be talking about should the New Orleans Saints go after Davante Adams on this episode. But want to give acknowledgement to the chat. Shouts out to each and every one of you. If you're not in the chat and you're just checking this out, rather you're at home, at work, or wherever you are, I really do appreciate it. But let's go ahead and get into it. Davante Adams. I don't think I'm telling anybody anything they don't already know. Davante Adams is one of the best wide receivers in football. I know that he plays for the Raiders, so sometimes when you play for a team that's not as successful, you kind of fly under the radar. But Davante Adams has been putting up respectable numbers in a Raiders uniform. Back in 2022, he had 100 catches for 1,516 yards and 14 touchdowns. 2023, he had 103 catches for 1,144 yards and 8 touchdowns. And as of right now, he has 18 catches for 209 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, we've all seen some of the video surrounding Davante Adams in the Raiders uniform. I think that a lot of us probably seen that Netflix special entitled Receiver. We know about him being extremely frustrated last season in a few games when Jimmy Garoppolo was overthrowing him, and he was just completely frustrated. And now we look at a few games into the season on the Raiders, who started off on a high note, knocking off the Baltimore Ravens in shocking fashion. Nobody saw that coming in week 2. But all in all, Davante Adams and the Raiders don't seem like they're on the same page. Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, he pretty much came out when The Raiders kind of had a setback after that emotional win over the Baltimore Ravens. They lost the following week, and he called some players out. He even said, quote, some of the players were making business decisions, and some players didn't particularly like that. One of those players was Davante Adams. Davante Adams also went on Kay Adams' show, Up and Adams, a few days ago, and he basically said that he was out the door. And Antonio Pierce the next day, liked I want to say a social media post that had Davante Adams probably playing his last game as a Raider. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, and Antonio Pierce liked that. And then finally, Antonio Pierce referring to the injury report. He acknowledged Michael Mayer, the tight end. He acknowledged Max Crosby, the star defensive end. But he acknowledged Davante Adams as just 17. So I don't know what that was all about. So you put all that together, it seems like both parties want that separation. And, Davante Adams still has a lot to offer the National Football League. I think that he is still an explosive player, and I think that he would be a great fit with the New Orleans Saints. But this is how I feel about it. It's not the fact that he's not a good fit. I mean, a talent like Davante Adams, they can fit in anywhere. Anywhere you want to put him, he'll find a place, and he's going to be active. He's going to be disruptive to a defense. He is going to be an integral part of an offensive scheme. But my question is, with the New Orleans Saints, are the New Orleans Saints fully committed to the future of this team the way that it's structured right now? And what I mean by that is, by going out making a decision like bringing in Davante Adams, you're kind of letting people know that you're prepared to let this thing work itself out. That includes Dennis Allen. That includes Derek Carr, because that's going to be one of the main reasons why Davante Adams ends up in a Saints uniform. I feel like I sound like a broken tape recorder. I've been hearing this all single day from everybody, right? We know that Davante Adams and Derek Carr were teammates in college at Fresno State. They're really close friends. Davante Adams, the decision to go to the Raiders had a lot to do with Derek Carr. And, the decision where, if he was to work with the Raiders organization to get to New Orleans, Derek Carr would play a role in that. Now, let's just make this very, very clear. It doesn't matter where Davante Adams wants to go. It doesn't matter. He is under contract with the Las Vegas Raiders for at least 2 more seasons. So the Raiders are going to look out for the Raiders. Now, he can want to go wherever he wants. The Jets was another team. Of course, we know that they have Aaron Rodgers, and he put up some of his best numbers. I'm talking Davante Adams with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is if the Raiders feel like the asking price, it suffice, right? Is the price right for a wide receiver like Davante Adams? That's all that matters at the end of the day. But like I said, this decision has to be based on a full commitment from Mickey Loomis to how this team is structured right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, based on what we have seen in the offseason, based on how this team is structured right now, the New Orleans Saints are basically telling us as fans, as onlookers, everybody that's kind of close to this team, they're telling us they love Dennis Allen, but they're not in love with Dennis Allen. I'm going to say that again. They're telling us they love Dennis Allen, but they're not in love with Dennis Allen. Let me elaborate. The decisions that the New Orleans Saints have made, there have not been any real strong decisions being made in the offseason. The way that this team is structured, if the Saints don't make the playoffs, if the Saints fall short yet again, they are prepared to blow this thing up. Chase Young has a 1-year, $13 million deal. Willie Gay has a 1-year, $5 million deal. They didn't re-sign Alvin Kamara as of right now. The only commitment they truly made was to Pete Warner when they gave him a 3-year contract. So the Saints are prepared to go in a different direction. And you have to ask yourself, does that direction also include a non-committal to Derek Carr? Because if Derek Carr doesn't pan out, if he doesn't assist along with Dennis Allen, the Saints to get to the playoffs, get to the postseason, maybe have double-digit wins, then I feel like they're going to be looking at him. And maybe they're thinking maybe he's not the answer. So I think the Saints have to be very, very careful in this decision if they do decide to go after Davante Adams, because if they do not, then I think that we pretty much already know what the deal is. Now, he has 2 years left on his deal. So anything that happens with Davante Adams with the New Orleans Saints, it would almost be like a mercenary deal, meaning that you have him but not for long. And you have to ask yourself, like, are you that close? Do you feel like you're a Davante Adams away from not only winning the division, but making a run in the playoffs, possibly at a Super Bowl berth in your home stadium or your home dome, which is the Superdome? Me personally, I love the New Orleans Saints, but let's just call a spade a spade. The Saints aren't close. They're a good football team. They're competitive. I feel like the New Orleans Saints can compete with any team in the league. Don't get it twisted. They have that type of talent. But what we have seen over the last 3 seasons, it tells me that they're close, but yet they're so far. They have failed to learn how to close out games. They have failed to learn how to win consistently. They drop games that they should win. They win games they should lose. It is a mixed bag, and that is not a recipe for success. I know I get on people's nerves. I know I frustrate people when I say this, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. Just because you don't acknowledge something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And just because you want to quiet people doesn't mean that those problems do not show their ugly head. 8-14 are the New Orleans Saints under Dennis Allen when they are in a deciding game with 3 points or less. I'm going to say that again. They are 8-14 when a game is decided with 3 points or less. Maya Angelou, my mom, says this: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. You can wish and you can hope all day and night, but that is who you are. I'm a dark-skinned brother. You know what I'm saying? I can walk out here like I'm a light-skinned dude, but I'm not, right? You can be whatever you want to be. You can pretend to be whatever you want to be, but in reality, when you look in that mirror, you're going to see exactly who you are. So this is not a show just to beat up on Dennis Allen. What I'm saying is, for those that are upset if the Saints don't go after Davante Adams, my question to you is, can you blame the organization? Are you sold on Dennis Allen? Because think about this, folks. If you decide to blow up this whole situation, you will have Davante Adams on the books. And that can be something that you may look at a few years from now and be like, man, that could have been a player that was younger, that was in free agency, that could have possibly helped this team get over the hump and reach their full potential. The New Orleans Saints organization is not sold on Dennis Allen. That's why they're taking this moment to structure a team that is good enough to be competitive week after week, that we will be glued to our television, that we will file our behinds up into the Superdome, say who that to the top of our lungs, with the possibility of believing that this team can get where they need to be. They are good enough to get where they need to be, but if they don't, it is glaring, and very, very eye-popping that they don't. And it's not like the Saints are just so terrible that Dennis Allen deserves a second chance after this season. As a matter of fact, I think that they're talented enough that if things don't go the way that they should go this season, then I think you pretty much know what you need to do with Dennis Allen. So do I feel like the New Orleans Saints need to go after Davante Adams? I wouldn't be objective to that. I wouldn't object it. But you have to ask yourself, will he change your misfortunes? Because based on what the Saints have on the field right now, they're talented enough to win football games. Why we're upset is the fact that they are good enough to win football games, but they can't close the deal. They can get into the room for the meeting, but they can't close the deal. If the New Orleans Saints were trash, terrible, unwatchable, I think we all will understand and be like, well, this is a rebuild. But the fact that you are in these games and you lose in heartbreaking fashion, it just makes you feel like maybe somebody else with a better voice or a stronger voice could be the answer to your problems. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case just yet. We're only a few weeks into the season, but when you're starting to see trends, folks, when you see trends, it's kind of hard for you to get away from it. It's kind of hard for you not to acknowledge that. And just because you want people to shut up about the obvious, because you want to live in this world where everything is fine and hoping and wishing is what you do every single day, because you feel like that is what a true fan is all about. Well, me personally, I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way. I don't feel like, stating the obvious or questioning some of the decisions or acknowledging some of the things that exist. That doesn't mean that you're not a real fan. That means that you are indeed a realist. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments. Thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate that. 409 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button. If you enjoy the State of the Saints podcast and the content, please hit the like button. Help the podcast to grow. I would really appreciate that. Go ahead and read some of the comments. I'll start in the middle because I said quite a bit. So I don't want to backtrack too far. I'll go with Desi. Desi says, I don't think the Saints have a top 5 offense. Desi, I think that the New Orleans Saints have the capability of having a top 5 offense. As of right now, they have a top 5 offense. Okay, how that will stem off into the season, I don't know, right? I don't know how it is. But as of right now, the Saints have scored more points than any team in the National Football League with 127 points over 4 weeks. Now, most of those points came in the first 2 weeks. You can say whatever you want, but that's still an NFL team. And the fact that the Carolina Panthers have looked more formidable as of late, they won one game with Andy Dalton and they lost another, but they were in that game with the Cincinnati Bengals. Tells you that that's a pretty formidable team in the right situation at quarterback. And then you have the Dallas Cowboys who have been struggling, but I mean, they got some talent on that football team. So what I would say is they're somewhere in between. They're not the greatest show on turf. They're not the 2012 Saints, but they have the capability of being explosive. The biggest issue, Desi, that I feel like the Saints are faced with is the fact that Clint Kubiak, who is talented at calling plays, has issues making adjustments. My thing is, you can't go into the game with just one particular game plan. And I feel like that is what shot them in the foot against the Atlanta Falcons. They were so hell-bent on giving them a heavy dose of Taysom that they forgot to think about the fact that Taysom has been dealing with injuries over the last few weeks. So you can't just put all of your eggs in one basket. You got to be able to distribute the ball. You got to be able to move the ball around. When you see Chris Olave getting doubled, you got to find a way to get some of these other players involved. And I also feel like he actually calls his best stuff probably the first 15 to 20 offensive plays throughout the game. And then when we start to get into the ebbs and flows, when we got to start making adjustments because the defensive coordinator has made adjustments to what you're doing, that's when I feel like they start to take a back seat. So you got to be able to prepare for everything. You know, one thing that we used to think, talk about with Sean Payton, we used to think about was, why did he try to do extra? Why did he try to do so much? But when you think about it, he was over preparing because there's still a possibility that he might have to go into this particular bag. Clint Kubiak calls a really good game with the first couple of plays. But if something goes wrong, it just seems like when Taysom Hill left the game, they just forgot what to do because they probably came into that game knowing that Taysom Hill is the Atlanta Falcons kryptonite And he went into the game with that idea, like, we're going to give them a heavy dose of Taysom and get the hell out of here with a victory. But he didn't think about the fact that Taysom may not be able to finish the game. And you also had to take into account the injuries to your running back, Alvin Kamara. So you got to be able to make those adjustments. I think the offense of the New Orleans Saints is somewhere in the middle. I think when Clint Kubiak has that ability or learns to be able to adjust, I think that we'll start to see this offense. You know, teams are going to play two safeties back. They're going to play quarters coverage most of the time because they do not want you to throw the ball down the field with explosive play to Rashid Shaheed. So what do? You take what the defense gives you. You take advantage of the middle of the field. You take advantage of the coverage. And it doesn't seem like they're doing that. They seem like they come in with one particular game plan, and if that fails, what I do now? You got to be able to come from all angles. You can't just look at it from one particular lens. You can't just see it through one particular lens here. You got to look at the entire scope of this thing. And what they're doing is they're just being one-dimensional because they go into a game with one particular game plan in mind. And sometimes you got to be able to adjust, especially when you have a defensive-minded coach that can be able to neutralize and take away the things that you do best. Because I can tell you this, you got a game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and Steve Spagnuolo has been around the block a few times. He's going to take away the thing that you do best, and that is running the ball with Alvin Kamara. And if he takes away running the ball with Alvin Kamara, then what's going to happen? You got to find a way to be able to adjust to what the defense is doing, and you got to be able to put your playmakers in a position to succeed. They're not utilizing some of these key players. They're not utilizing them. They're not utilizing them and trying to find their strengths. What they're doing is they're taking a few guys and they're trying to utilize them, but teams are starting to zero in on those players. So what are you going to do? You got to start putting Cedric Wilson up in there to make plays. You got to be able to put Mason Tipton in the game to make plays. Maybe bring in A.T. Perry when he decides to get healthy. Kendre Miller is coming back. Feel like that can be a really good change of pace. Help out Alvin Kamara a little bit. So you got to be able to utilize some of your young playmakers, man. And understand that Kamara is good, Olave is good, and so is Shaheed. But when you can get these other players involved, it's going to be hard for other teams to be able to stop your offense, because if those other players are cooking, you got to be able to acknowledge them as well, right? So that's what you need to do. Agreed. TJ says Taysom go down. Let me see. Taysom go down, dude goes brain dead. Well, look, Taysom is an amazing talent. I think we all know that. We know what Taysom brings to the table as far as his ability to be that Swiss Army knife that the Saints need. And he's a great overall football player. But he's also 34 years old, playing positions that he doesn't normally play and getting abused, the way that his body normally doesn't get abused. I mean, he is getting more touches than he normally would in a regular game, especially since he has been successful. You know, if Taysom Hill more than likely would have stayed in that game, probably would have been more tougher for the Atlanta Falcons. But you cannot just, once again, put all of your eggs in one basket. It kind of reminds me of that NFC Championship game versus the Rams. The Saints offense was able to move the football, but it was like at the beginning of the game, they were really moving the football because of Josh Hill. Josh Hill was doing some things and making really good key blocks, and he left that game with a concussion. And they asked Sean Payton, about the game plan. And he said, when Josh Hill left the game, we had to throw away about 43 offensive plays. And, you gotta be able to compensate for the loss of players. That's just what it is. Players are going to get hurt. You can't just go into a game just thinking that, okay, man, we're going to run this football 30 times with Alvin Kamara. There's a possibility, and I'm knocking on wood when I say this, but there's a possibility that he may not finish the game. So you got to be able to come up with different ways to get these other guys involved. If you do that, then I feel like the Saints can have an explosive offense. But until then, you're just going to be as vanilla as Baskin-Robbins ice cream out there if something goes wrong. I agree. Kofi, but we also need veterans to especially solid vets. I don't know exactly what the I guess the comment was in pertaining to veterans, but I think you need a balance. Okay, if I can just intervene, I don't know what the whole topic where it stemmed from, Ad Drummer, but I think that you need a balance. I think that you need young players, guys that are starting to move into their prime, because that kind of helps you when it comes to the salary cap and player development. You can develop players in your system, and they can become your soldiers, so to speak. And then you got your veterans that rather you get from free agency or guys that's been around for quite some time. They can be mentors to these young players, teach them how to be pros, help them be able to learn film study and how to study the game all together. The mental aspect of the game, the physical aspect of the game. They can be able to do that. But me personally, I just think that you need a balance. You definitely need some real true leaders in the locker room. And fortunately for the New Orleans Saints, they have three. They have three really good leaders in Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Tyrann Mathieu. A lot of teams don't have that. You might have that one voice, but the Saints, they have three voices inside of their locker room that when they talk, people listen. So when you have that, I think you have a good football team. But I definitely think you need a balance because you need someone that can be able to steer some of these young players in the right direction. I'm not going to say all young players that come into the league need guidance. Some of those guys are, they're a little bit mature, a little bit more mature than some others. But, you do need that veteran in the locker room that has been around. When you're looking around, you're seeing guys your age. Sometimes when you have to overcome levels of adversity, sometimes guys don't know how to accept that, especially if you're like a top 15, top 20 pick, first, second round pick coming from a big school that won a lot of games, not really used to losing, going to bowl games consistently, rather than on a high school level, you're winning multiple state championships. That is a shock to your system when you come from success. And then all of a sudden you're going to a team that's struggling left and right. Like, can you imagine like Chris Olave, who comes from Ohio State, playing in the Sugar Bowl, probably losing one, maybe two games per season. And now you are a player that is going into your fourth season and ain't never made the playoffs? Right? That's kind of crazy, right? I mean, you're known for being successful. And now all of a sudden, like, you're going through these hardships, but you got leaders that you can be able to lean on. They can tell you about the ultimate goal. They can tell you about levels of success. They can tell you when things aren't going right and how they dealt with it. But if you have a bunch of guys looking around the room 24, 25, kind of in the same situation, who are you going to lean on? That's the main question. Says Sean Payton says the same thing when Josh Hill went out. Yep, I mentioned that. Yep, he said the same thing. Like, some of these players, they mean a lot. They mean a lot. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to adjust. Taysom changed the whole package for defenses. He does, because you can't go into the game knowing what Taysom Hill is going to do. I mean, defensive coordinators are burning a midnight oil trying to find ways to neutralize Taysom. You don't know if Taysom is going to run up the gut with a quarterback or QB power. You don't know if he's going to drop back to pass and throw a ball in the middle of the field. And it's not like Taysom Hill can't throw the football. That's the thing. It's not like, like, I don't know, a wide receiver that, on a reverse pass or something. Like, he can throw the ball with zip and accuracy. Like, he can fit the ball in there. And, that's tough. It's not like, it's going to be a live pass or something like that. He can make all the throws. I mean, his deep ball look like punts, but still, he still can get the ball down there. So you don't really know how to approach this guy, because he can come from different angles and you won't even see it. So that's what makes him such a weapon. So when he is in the lineup, I can understand why the offense moves the way that it does, because teams don't know how to approach it. But at the same time, how long is Taysom going to be able to do this? I mean, Taysom is 34 years old. Taysom has maybe 2-3 years left in him, if that, So you got to be able to find other ways other than Taysom Hill to make explosives happen on your offense. Slim, hope you're well, my friend. Big game on Monday night. Yep. So Adams would be a godsend. I wouldn't say it would be a godsend, Because me personally, I don't think anything's too wrong with this offense. I think that they become too dependent on certain players, and that causes them not to be able to see the forest through the trees. I just think that when you have like certain players with certain skill sets, you got to be able to utilize it, because I don't see them really utilizing a tight end position. I don't really see them using a third receiver. I don't really see them using Jamal Williams in short yardage situations. I don't see them utilizing some of these players that can make some plays in crucial situations. It's like when we go into this game plan and we want to be Olave heavy, oh, they neutralize Olave. What I'm going to do now? We got to find ways. I'm talking to New Orleans Saints. They have got to find ways to try to get these other players involved, because right now they're becoming way too one-dimensional. They're becoming one-dimensional when it comes to their offensive approach. It's going to be a heavy dose of Taysom, a heavy dose of Alvin, probably a attempt at a deep shot to Shaheed, and maybe having Chris Olave work the middle, you know what I'm saying, and work in the flat. That's it. And if I'm telling you this and you can see this, imagine what these coordinators can see. The guys that really get paid millions of dollars to be able to dissect offenses. So, you don't want them to be able to go to bed 2 hours into a film study. You don't want them to do that. You don't want them to do it like, okay, man, we good. We good tomorrow. You got to be able to keep them up at night. You got to be able to keep them up at night, because so the next day they'll be too exhausted from going over your film that they're not calling the best game possible. That's what good offenses be able to do to defensive coordinators. Seems like 70% of the playbook consists of Taysom Hill plays. We need to get the other players involved besides our main weapons. Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to do that. You can't be one-dimensional. It says he had like 76 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yeah, Davante Adams is the Saints Super Bowl chance. I don't believe that. I don't, Mike. I think that he will add to the team, but I also think that what's going on with the New Orleans Saints is not just about the players. Like I don't think we would be upset as we are if it was just about players. We feel that the Saints have good players that are good enough for them to be able to be winning this division, for them to be able to be top of the NFC, to have a playoff berth. We feel that way, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have got upset over the last 2 weeks with these losses. We would have understood that this is a rebuilding process. We know that they have the talent to do this. If you was to get Davante Adams, it would add more talent to what you already have. But it's not like I don't look at this team, in the right situation, a little bit of luck bouncing their way and a little better decision making. It's not like I don't look at this team as a potential playoff team. Now, what they do in the playoffs, that's another story. But they can compete with any team in the league. I don't really see the Saints getting blown out by teams unless these guys just basically are telling the front office, we need another voice in the locker room. I don't see that. I see a team that is going to continue to fight no matter the circumstances. And if you have that, then you have yourself a good football team. Now, is it a great football team? Probably not. But it's a good enough football team in order for you to get where you want to be and achieve some goals that you're trying to attain. And if your head coach is good enough for you to be able to keep your job, if you coach these guys right. That is why I feel that the New Orleans Saints are not making these type of commitments that we normally would see years before, because they feel like they got a good enough team that is structured the way that it is, that can make or break Dennis Allen. So I don't have an issue with the New Orleans Saints not making a full commitment to possibly getting Davante Adams. I have no problem with that. I don't. Because in ways that is the organization telling me that I don't know if we are Davante Adams commitment worthy just yet, the way that we're structured. So if he doesn't come to New Orleans, I don't have a problem with that. Because I do feel like this is a make or break year. In the way that this team is structured, it looked like it's a make or break year. Let's see. TJ, I believe, is not the offensive coordinator, it's the head coach. I think you've been getting in his way. He wanted to take the credit for our victories. Look, man, I don't think that I don't think it's that, Greg, because look, when you are on the hot seat, when you are in a make or break year, you got to get it any way you can. Like, get the hell out of the way. If this guy is doing what he needs to do in order to save your ass, guess what? Let him do what he got to do. Let him cook. To me, the New Orleans Saints organization right now, it's like if you have a child, right? And you give your child, let's just say you give your child a Dodge Ram, right? I'm going to give you this Dodge Ram right here, man. Brand new, 10 miles on that joint. Oh, thank you, mama. Thank you, daddy. I'm riding. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Boom, crash into a post. Dang, man, you done totaled out this car, man. I can't believe this, man. This was a brand new car, man. What? Look, you trying to drive too fast. You trying to stun. You trying to look out the window. You trying to let the lady see you. Trying to let the guy see you. What's going on here? You know, like, what's going to do? What you going to do? I'm sorry. Okay. But I ain't going to get you that Ram no more. I'm not going to spend my money on giving you a high-priced vehicle. I'm going to give you something that's reasonably priced the next time, right? I'm not going to make that full commitment to you because guess what? You showed me that if I make this type of commitment, what you're going to do with it. So you're going to have to earn my trust back. Ride around in this Honda Civic, ride around in this Hyundai, and make sure that you don't crash this thing, and maybe we can talk in the next couple of years. You feel what I'm saying? He has to show that he is the right guy for the job. They felt like they exhausted the cap. They felt like they moved some things around. They felt like they was bringing some guys in. They brought your guy in Derek Carr. So you got to prove that you can make this thing work. Because if not, then guess what? You know, if you can't get it done within the Ram and you can't get it done in a Hyundai, I mean, I guess we about to get you that cash car, man, that 2000 Ford Escort with 50,000 miles on that joint. We not going to commit like that. And I don't blame them. And you shouldn't either. Michael, thank you very much for the $1.99 donation. Tim, thank you for the $10. Says absolutely need to go for Adams outside of Olave, AK, Shaheed, and Taysom, who is our offense, and all of those guys are playing hurt. Let me see. We're on eggshells, and I don't trust nobody else. Yeah, like I said, I'm not objecting them going out to get Davante Adams, but I'm saying if they don't go after him and they don't make a full commitment like that, I can understand. And I think that everybody else should as well. Tim also says, I don't trust Dennis to get these players their full potential. So I'm putting my money on a short thing like Adams. Yeah, I always felt like Dennis Allen, you know, is the kind of coach that kind of needs players that are already kind of structured really well. You know, I just think that, you know, sometimes guys can coach good players, and then you got the guys that can coach players up, right? And right now, I just think that, you know, Dennis Allen is the type of guy, he needs an easy study. He needs an easy study player. He can develop some of those players, like defensively, he can develop them, but I don't think like around, like how you look at the 49ers, like you see development on the offense and defensive side of the football on both sides. You don't really see that in New Orleans. Like in certain players defensively, like you can see some development, but not overall. If a guy is good, then he's just going to be good. If a guy is middle of the pack, 2-3 years into his Saints career under Allen, I just learned that he's basically just middle of the pack, might grow just a little bit, might, you know, one particular thing might improve. Maybe it become a little bit more of a better tackler, but not to a point where it's just eye-popping and painstakingly obvious that player has reached his full potential. I haven't seen that. Let's see. What's crazy when the Saints have players that are held back to go to other teams and those players flourish? That's because those teams know how to use those players. They come in and they bring in a game plan for those players. Like, man, we got a plan for you. Like the Eagles signed Zach Bond. They had a plan for him. You know, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati, they had a plan for him. You know, Caden Ellis with the Falcons, they had a plan for him. So they, you know, sometimes guys have to go to different places in order for them to thrive, you know. And sometimes those players go to places and they kind of, you know, take steps back, or they're not really that noticeable, like Marcus Williams with the Baltimore Ravens. You know, I feel like he was a better safety in New Orleans than he is in Baltimore. And maybe that's because, you know, they have no Kyle Hamilton out there. You know, got Marlon Humphreys. You got some guys that's some studs out there. So they're like kind of outshines yours. But I think that, you know, Marcus Williams was a better safety in New Orleans than he is in Baltimore. Not to say that he's bad. I just feel like he was better in New Orleans. So we coming for those Falcons tomorrow. Go Bucks. Well, Brent, good luck to you guys tomorrow in Atlanta. Should be an interesting game. Should be a fun game to watch. Both teams are trying to, you know, maintain position. The Falcons are trying to move to that number one spot in the South, and the Bucks are trying to maintain that spot. So should be a fun game to watch. I feel like Adams come to New Orleans is just going to be another trip to the Raiders, because if they let go of Allen and Carr, we'll be gone too. And that's what I'm saying, Rico. My whole point is, you know, are you fully committed to what this team is right now, the structure of this team? Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know if the Saints are really that sold on Dennis Allen. Like I said, I feel like they love Dennis Allen. They want him to do well, but they're not in love with him to a point where they're going to let this thing continue to go the way that it has gone. Like right now, you know, the reputation of Dennis Allen is close but no cigars, man. You know, it's just a lot of bad luck surrounding this football team under Dennis Allen. And when you combine the fact that, you know, you're winning in these games late, and your defense, you know, can't get a stop. I mean, they've been playing well the entire game, making stops the entire game, but they can't make the stops when it matters most. Man, that's alarming right there. That's alarming, man. I mean, you can go off for 50 points, and, you know what I'm saying, the game can be tied, and you at the free throw line, and, you know what I'm saying, you can't shoot, you can't make 1 out of 2 field goal. I mean, free throws. You know, like, something wrong with that, man. Like, you good, but you ain't clutch. You know, I don't know. You're like, you can't sit up here and not pay attention to what's in front of you, man. You just can't. Like, that's just not smart. Like, 8-14. I mean, the record speaks for itself. We can't sit up here and just say, man, I ain't trying to hit it. I mean, how many games is that, right? I mean, what's that, 20, 21? No, 22 games? So 22 games, you know, you got a 22 game sample size of, you know, what can happen in some of these phone boot type games. And you're 8-14. I mean, you got to ask yourself, you know, can they get it done? Axel Bum says, we so rarely assign star players in season. Yeah, I mean, because the star players are trying to stay with their team. They're trying to stay with that team. Jordan Johnson, thank you very much for 999, says, if you were sore at 3, well, if you're sore at 3-1 and thinking Adams could put you over the top, then I understand. The Saints are literally 2 losses away from firing the head coach and benching a quarterback. Please don't hurt future. Look, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think, like, honestly, I don't think that neither one of them are in jeopardy right now. I don't think that Derek Carr's job is in jeopardy. I don't think that he's going to get benched. And I honestly feel like the Saints would allow Dennis Allen to coach out the remainder of the season unless it's like one of those Brandon Staley type games when he was coaching the Chargers and they played against the Raiders and it was like 42 to nothing, or, you know, at halftime or something like that, like something that was just completely embarrassing. You know, like then you didn't have any choice because it's pretty obvious that that coach lost the locker room. But as long as the Saints are competitive in games, they're going to keep him around. I can't see them firing Dennis Allen in the middle of the season unless like something like just completely goes haywire. Like I said, you got to have like a game where it just pretty obvious that the message is going on deaf ears. And I just think that this team has too much pride to allow that to happen. Let's see. Our O-line is holding it down for the best of it. Taysom Hill is the factor. We need another sub for a Taysom-minded player that can disturb and question our opponents. I'm going to say this, Trey. Yeah, it's going to be a while before you see a player like Taysom Hill hit the NFL again. I mean, Taysom Hill is a special football player. He's a special football player, man. He was a special find. And I just don't think that you're going to see players with his type of skill set and his type of ability for a long time. You know, I think he is that special of a player. But you can probably try to find a player that can possess some of the skills that he has. But I don't think you're going to find a player that's going to be able to do what Taysom Hill has done in the National Football League. Like, I think that Taysom Hill arguably is probably I would say top 3 greatest all-around football player of all time. Like, it's very rare that you see players that just excel in everything that you ask them to do. Taysom Hill has won games at the quarterback position. Taysom Hill has caught touchdowns. He has run touchdowns. He has blocked punts. He has kick returns, like big time kick returns. Like, he has done so many different things at so many different positions. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like, I've seen Deion Sanders in his prime, you know, no pun intended, play wide receiver and cornerback at a high level. I've seen Cardell Stewart, not just at the University of Colorado, but with the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing quarterback, playing wide receiver, punting the football. I've seen him do all these things, but I have never seen a player like Taysom Hill that can just do so many different things well. And honestly, it's not even a gadget play when it comes to him. When he's under center, like, he's a quarterback throwing the football. When somebody throws him the football, he's playing tight end. He's running in between the tackles like a running back, getting 4 and 5 yards a clip. He is blocking punts. Like, have y'all ever seen a player like that? So, Trey, you might find a player that has some of his skill set, but I don't think we'll ever see a player like Taysom Hill in the National Football League again. And if we do, it's going to be a long time before we actually see it. Like, what Taysom Hill is special. He's a special football player, man. And it's one of those things where when he retires, you're going to have a full appreciation for him. Like, you're going to be telling your grandkids about how good this dude was. Let's see. The problem is teams are selling out versus the run, taking away Shaheed and containing Olave. They're daring Carr to beat them, and the third receiver isn't stepping up. So you're stagnant. Yeah, I mean, I think teams are willing to live with that, Scoop. They're willing to live with the fact that, you know, man, if Derek Carr beats me on this Sunday afternoon or this Monday night or this Thursday night, I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to let Olave beat me. I'm not going to let Rashid Shaheed beat me over the top. I'm not going to let Alvin just run crazy on me. I'm not going to let Taysom get started. You know, I can live with that. Like, this may sound crazy, but teams going to the game looking at Derek Carr like the weak link on offense. And, you know, despite the fact that he's not the worst quarterback in the world, they rather take a chance of Derek Carr beating them than any other player on the team. Like, seriously, that's the way I look at it. Let's see. Got to look for them. They are out there. I don't know, man. I don't know if they're out there. I don't know if they're out there. Like, you're going to have to get in a canoe boat and, you know, and try to travel across some water and maybe over a mountain to try to find something like that. Man, I'm telling you, man, that guy is special, Trey. He's a special player, man. It's hard. It was going to be hard to find him. Hey, TJ, do you think Taysom is a Hall of Famer? I don't think that he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's an NFL Hall of Famer, but based on his position, I don't think anybody will ever forget who he is. You know, I think that he will always be remembered for how talented he was. You know, I think that if he was in a Hall of Fame, you know, they will have to carve out a lane for him. But because he played so many different positions, I think the Hall of Fame kind of focus in on guys that played one particular position well. And I don't think that he'll make the Hall of Fame. But the good thing is, like, some of his some of his games and his jerseys and stuff like that are in Canton, because of some of the milestones that he reached. So at least he knows he can go to the Hall of Fame and take his kids and his grandkids there one day and say, look, I'm in here. Look, this is my jersey when I played against, the Falcons. This is my jersey when I played against, this team of that team. So, yeah. Say, TJ, Tommy Stevens was the closest to Taysom. We drafted him, but it just didn't work out. Yeah, Tommy Stevens, they thought that he could be him, but, it just turns out, that he was Steven Regal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't working out. You know what I'm saying? Like, they thought that they had, another Taysom Hill. He had that skill set, had that ability, but nah, he wasn't it, man. Tommy Stevens was not it when it comes to, what the Saints needed him to be. But but that just tells you how special Taysom was. Tommy Stevens, Steven Regal. Let's see. To be honest, we can keep blaming the coach, but at the end of the day, the coach calls the plays and the players either capitalize or fail. I'm just saying. Murder, let me tell you this, man. What you're saying, I'm not going to take away from you because you're absolutely right. But hey, the coach's job is to coach these players up. It is their job to make sure that these players are put in position. And when these players are playing undisciplined, when you're jumping off sides, when you're holding, when you're getting pass interference calls, when you're muffing punts, that's coaching. Now we can say, oh man, the players did it, but you have to ask at the same time, like, why are they undisciplined when it comes to these certain situations? And you also have to ask yourself, why does this stuff keep happening over and over again? And you also have to ask yourself, why is it that they're losing these games when they are phone booth close? I'm sorry, Murder. You can say that as players, but that's not how the organizations and that's not how fans look at it. They look at it like you are a reflection of your coach. If you are an undisciplined football team, if you're giving up big plays at inopportune moments, they're going to look at the coach and wonder, why can't you coach this out of this player? And it's not like we haven't been dealing with this for the last 3 seasons. We have to come to grips and understand that this is who this team is and has been. Now, the best behavior is change behavior. You can change the behavior, but it's going to have to take some time and commitment. And it's also going to have to take some coaching. That's just what it is, man. Like I don't make the rules. But the reality is, if a young player comes into the league, number 1 overall, and, he goes out there and he looks the part, and he gets developed, then guess what? Guess who's going to get the credit? The quarterback and the coach. That player don't end up being everything that you want him to be. Guess who is going to get the blame? Player and coach. Mostly coach. But the thing about it is the players, they're going to get more leeway than the coach. Because if you draft a guy, guess what? They're going to give them at least 4 to 5 years to prove that they have what it takes. That coach, if you can't get the best out of that player, then guess what? You probably got 2, maybe 3 years tops. And depending on the organization, you may not even have 3 years. That's just the way that it goes, man. So it's really up to the coaches to try to get this bad behavior and these bad tendencies and coach that kind of stuff out of these players. If they can't, then guess what? They're going to be gone. Tim, thank you very much for the $4.99. And Trey, thank you very much for the $5. And I do want to take this moment to not only thank the ones that donated, but also acknowledge the fine folks at BetUS. This show, the State of the Saints podcast, is powered by BetUS. You can sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, and you can get the 125% on your second and third deposit up to $2,000. You can use the BetUS app, or you can go to BetUS and use the promo code YouTube150. But let me go ahead and get back to the comments here. Thank you all for being here tonight in the morning, wherever you're checking this out. Let's see. Granger says a second rounder isn't too much for Adams. Shit out last year's second round pick couldn't even get on the field. Yeah, man. I mean, it may not be much, but you have to think about the fact or where you are as a franchise. I mean, a second round pick at this stage could actually be beneficial to the New Orleans Saints. You know, it can probably help them. I mean, Isaiah Foskey hasn't been everything that you need him to be, but at the same time, Alontae Taylor has, right? And he's a second round pick. So we can, you know, sometimes you're going to roll the dice. Sometimes you're going to, you know, you're going to hit, and sometimes you're going to crap out. And the Saints have been crapping out, but you know they've got you know some talented players. We think that Kool-Aid McKinstry is talented. Tallahassee Fuaga in the first round has been talented, has been showing the part, has really been active, and really been playing a huge role on the offensive line. So, you know, I want to say that, you know, a second round pick can be beneficial to this team. And you also have to say this: if you have Davante Adams, right, and you trade the Raiders and they get your second round pick, you got a contract with Davante Adams for 2 years, unless you're about to extend him or something like that, right? But if you get a second round pick, you know at least you're going to have him for at least 4 years. So you're looking at Davante Adams for a second round pick for 1, maybe 2 years, depends on how you structure that contract, or a second round pick that you can actually develop in your system and give you that production that you need. I mean, they got some talented wide receivers coming out of college next season. So I know a lot of people want Davante Adams. Like I said, I'm not objective to them trading for Davante Adams. But what I'm saying is, how close are you? Like to me, Davante Adams should be a commitment of a team that feels like they're stable and they're ready to go for it. And I don't know, based on offseason decisions from the New Orleans Saints, it doesn't scream to me we going for it. You know, it screams we're going to be competitive, and we're just going to let the chip fall where they may. You know, that's how I feel about it. Trizzy, Tate, thank you very much for the $10. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. See, Paul says Saints will need all their draft picks if they fire Dennis Allen. We are not one player away. I do feel that way, Paul. And that's another thing. Keeping your first round draft picks, well, keep your first round, second round draft picks, all of your draft picks, because you want to make your organization as attractive and appealing to the next coach. You want to be able to give him a good, I guess, a good stable system to start with. Like, you don't want them to come in to an issue, right? I got a first round pick. I ain't got no second. I ain't got no third. You know, we got a first, a fourth. Like, come on, man, give them something to work with. You want them to be able to have a decent salary cap. You want them to have preferably all 7 of your draft picks. You want them to have some players that they can actually develop. And you also want them to have some, you know, wiggle room where they can actually move some things around, bring some guys in, also making some tough decisions by letting some really popular guys go. I mean, we don't want to hear that, but if you're going to go in a different direction and you're going to get a coach that's going to help you to be able to get over that hump, then guess what, folks? Sometimes you're going to have to make those tough decisions. And you're also going to have to give them something that they can actually work with. So I'm not saying none of this is going to happen, but based on how this team is moving, it just seems like to me like they're not trying to make no full commitments on anything right now. Like Davante Adams, that's a we going for broke type decision. That's like a we gonna be a championship contender with him type stuff. Like that, to me, those are teams like 49ers. I'm just thinking about some teams that, you know, that's there, like Lions, Buffalo, you know, like teams like that. Like bringing this guy in is going to, like, they already good. They have a potential to be the number 1 seed. With him, they not only can be the number 1 seed, but they're gonna win the whole damn thing. When I look at the New Orleans Saints, I don't see that right now. I see a team that can win some games. I see a team that's gonna be in games they probably other people feel like they shouldn't be in, but it doesn't scream Super Bowl. It doesn't scream top seed. It doesn't scream like, we about to dominate everybody every week. It doesn't scream that. That Davante Adams decision is a we going for a type decision. And I'm just wondering, like, are the Saints fully committed to DA, fully committed to Derek Carr being the future of this franchise, going forward? I don't know. I honestly do not think so. Because if they did, then I think they probably would have went after some of these other guys. They probably would have, made a trade, or probably been in that Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. They probably, probably would have looked at the running back position a little bit more, finding some of these other guys that have been well established in the league. Maybe we would have heard them talking about getting Saquon Barkley. I mean, we would have heard this, but you're hearing them signing guys like Jermaine Jackson and, putting stories out about Mason Tipton, a Yale undrafted guy, like that ain't moving a needle to me. That's like, okay, man, we're going to find some guys that going to compete, that can, do some things that we need them to do. And, we just going to be as competitive as possible. I mean, they're like, what on this team tells you that, they just looking at this team like, man, we got everything that we need. We got what it takes to be a champion. Like they have structured this team to be competitive and let the chips fall where they may. This team is not terrible to a point where I'm like, man, get this team out of my face. But they're not at this stage good enough for us to just be sitting up here like beating on our chest like we gonna kill y'all, we gonna murder y'all, we gonna murder y'all. It's just not it. This is a balanced football team, mixed bag, win one, lose one, might go on a little bit of a streak, might not go on a streak, might go on a losing streak. Like it's one of those teams. Like Forrest Gump mama say, life is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. This same season is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. It's like those same box of chocolates that Forrest Gump's mom was talking about. You don't know what you're going to get with this team. The only teams desperate enough to trade for Davante are probably Philly and maybe Buffalo. I don't even think it's desperate. It wouldn't even be desperation for Buffalo, Gooby, on my part. Like, I think that, look, I like Shakir. Shakir, I think that he's a really good wide receiver, but he's a little bit on the smaller side. Keon Coleman, I think that he has a lot of talent, but he's not there yet. I just think that adding a guy like Davante Adams would be extremely beneficial to them. It will give Josh Allen a target that he can actually zero in on, that can actually help you in some of those tougher games. Like I said, I like their wide receivers. I think that they got some young, talented guys. I want to mention Curtis Samuels too. I think he's on that team, but they don't have that one alpha dog just yet. Gabe Davis, when he left, I think that left a huge void. Stephon Diggs, I think that, that left a void. I like they have talented wide receivers. Those guys can make plays, but Davante Adams can really take them over the top. They're already good right now. They're already good, but I think that he will make them even better. Like, if they're flirting with a 2 seed, I think that Davante Adams, along with Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills defense, they can be a 1 seed. That's what I'm talking about with a difference maker. That's why I feel like, it would be, beneficial to a team. I don't feel like the issues that are plaguing the New Orleans Saints have to do with their offense. Like, I don't feel like the reason why they scored 12 points against the Eagles and 24 points against the Atlanta Falcons was because their offense isn't good enough. Like, I think that the Saints offense is good enough to win games. Now, he will make their offense better. That goes without saying. But I don't think the issues and why the Saints are 2-2 has anything to do with their offense not having enough players. It has to do with the players that they have aren't being utilized. That's the big issue. If the Saints were just depleted offensively and they didn't have absolutely nothing, then by all means. Like I would be like, man, get them tonight. But you have the players that you need to be successful. They're just not being utilized the way that they need to be in order for the Saints to reach their full success offensively consistently. Shouts out to my mom. Thank you very much for the $19.99. Appreciate that. And Trizzy, thank you very much for the $10. He says, I meant to send this before, but God bless you and your family. TJ, shows how dedicated you are to the team, show and the fans to be here and doing this. So I thank you for the content, love, and who that. Man, appreciate that, Trizzy. I really do appreciate that, man. And, shouts out to, the Lewis family. For those that don't know, my sister, Layla Lewis, she passed away a couple of days ago. And yeah, man, it's been really, really tough, to kind of deal with, man. She leaves behind a 5-year-old son. Shouts out to Elijah. And man, it's just surreal. Like I was just at the game, week 1 versus the Carolina Panthers. And everybody knows that I was doing a show at the Little Easy. And she came over there and actually watched the show, and we walked from the Little Easy to the Caesars Superdome together. We're laughing, we cracking jokes. And I didn't think in a million years, that would be like the last moment that I had with her, going to that game, and I sent text messages like once I left New Orleans, flew back home to Myrtle Beach. And she told me, she's like, next time you got to bring Paxton down so he can hang out with Elijah. Because, of course, a lot of my son Paxton is 5 as well. But I didn't think in a million years that would happen, man. But, it's really tough. And, man, shouts out to, my dad. Shouts out to, family. Really going through it right now. So shouts out to them, and may she rest in peace, man. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. It's still surreal. Like it's kind of still surreal. But yeah. TJ here, I agree with you, but man, if you make to the dance with this defense and the offense with AK, Olave, and Adams, anything can happen. Well, here's the thing, 504. I agree with you. Look, that statement that I just made, the Saints are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. The Saints could go on a hot streak and make it all the way to the big game. Or they can just fall like completely off the map. Like it's either or. And at this point, would you be surprised in any scenario? I wouldn't. That's why, honestly, I get so upset when they lose, especially the game that they lost against the Falcons. Had no business losing a game like that. So, like I said, if they fall flat on their face, I don't think people would be surprised for the most part. If they obtain prosperity beyond our wildest dreams, I don't think people would be surprised by that either. Like it's feast or famine here. And neither scenario would surprise anybody. If the Saints go to the playoffs, everybody feel like they have the talent to do so. If the Saints don't reach their full potential, I think people will understand why. So it's kind of a mixed bag here. So it's kind of like it's somewhere in the middle. That's why I said the Saints are the type of team, they are structured for our amusement, for us to have enough faith and enough hope in them to feel like they're going to do something. But you have to wonder to yourself, can they be able to do what we feel they can do, like obtain success? They're good enough to obtain certain levels of success. The question is, can they be able to attain ultimate success? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Corey, thank you very much for 1999. Says prayers up for you and your family, TJ. I appreciate that, man. Like I said, shouts out to my dad, Anthony Lewis. Like I said, man, I talked to him today. Yeah, so man, prayers out to him and the Lewis family, man, at this time. Yeah, but like I said, it's just completely surreal. Says, what up, TJ? Who that nation? Is real sad when you love your team so much to see how not only the team, but organization has gotten their own way, I have no emotional interest in my team as of right now. Well, I think that they got to give you a reason to have some type of emotional attachment to it, right? They they got to, by making right decisions, by winning some games, by showing you something that you haven't been seeing from this football team. I do think that fear played a huge role in the transitional process of the New Orleans Saints, or during the transitional process of the Saints. I do feel like Dennis Allen was hired not because he was the right guy for the job, but I feel like they hired him because he was safe and he was recognizable. And I don't think they wanted to steer too far away from the port, if you will. Like, I think that by bringing in Dennis Allen, it was a comfortable move. Bringing in somebody else, that means that they would have to learn about that person's attitude, his tendencies, and knowing and understanding Dennis Allen from his 2 stints with the New Orleans Saints, they kind of knew what they were going to have. I think a level of arrogance kind of played a role, feeling like, okay, man, that was a Raiders thing, that won't be a Saints thing. But, I think that the Saints kind of set themselves back in certain regards. Number one, I feel like if you probably would have got a strong coach, come in, reputation of being a leader of men, being a team builder, I think Dennis Allen would have stayed around. Then you would have had Dennis Allen coaching the defense and having a guy that can come in, probably an offensive-minded coach, to be able to get the offense on track. You also probably would have still had Pete Carmichael around there somewhere. I'm not saying that Pete Carmichael is a good play caller. I don't feel like he is. I think that he's a guy that can kind of help you strategize. But I think that you kind of lost your way and you kind of lost ground by trying to keep the same infrastructure in place when you should have blew that thing up. That's all I'm saying. Like, now, if you lose Dennis Allen, now you completely like changing everything around. You got to hope that you bring in a guy that's a defensive mind that can actually generate some of the same levels of success defensively that you have with Dennis Allen. And you also got to be able to bring in somebody offensively that is going to play to the strengths of the players that you already have, and be able to add some more players to believe in that same philosophy that new coach is bringing in. So, you kind of set yourself back with this situation. I do feel like if the New Orleans Saints would have gotten a new head coach, didn't hire Dennis Allen, kept him as a coordinator, I think that the Saints probably would have been to the playoffs at least one out of these last 3 years, or probably would have went to the playoffs every single year. I just think that sometimes you get too afraid of change, and you get this false sense of reality of who you are and what you are as a team. And I just think that kind of played a role in what is going on with the New Orleans Saints. I just think that they like that comfortability. They like cohesiveness. They like familiarity. I think that that's all fine and dandy, but at the same time, sometimes you got to be able to move on to reach your full potential. Sometimes people like to stay in the same place and they wonder to themselves why they're not going anywhere. Well, sometimes the people that you're around can kind of bring you down or keep you in the same stationary position. But you have to get away from familiar territory sometimes to reach your full potential. So if you were to do that, then I think that you probably would have been further off. I think the Saints were kind of afraid to move forward, and they were afraid to get away from Sean Payton-like philosophies, because that at the time was the only thing that was recognizable when it comes to Saints and success, was the Paytonisms. But new isms are born every day under new regimes. You just got to have the confidence that you can be able to replicate or be able to exceed what you already replicated. I'm over us trying to quick fix everything. If it ain't bringing in no championships, I'm good on it. Rather keep the draft picks. Yeah, I mean, I just think that you have to be real with what you are as a team. I'm not poo-pooing on the team. I don't think that they're a terrible football team, but I think that you need to come to grips with who you are and what you are as a football team. You can't go to a Ferrari dealership and talk about you want a Ferrari and you got $300 in your bank account and your credit, you have a bad credit score. Like it's just ridiculous. Like you're wasting everybody's time here. Sometimes you got to look in the mirror. You may have Ferrari dreams, but you got Pinto you got Pinto money. You know what I'm saying? Like you may have these dreams and these aspirations of being something that more than what you are as of right now. But at this particular time, you have to work towards those dreams rather than saying this is going to happen right now. You're setting yourself up for failure. You can look the part, you can dress the part, but if you're not the part, you are not the part. Doesn't mean that you're not the part, or you won't be the part, I should say. That doesn't mean you won't be the part, but you're not the part yet. So I think that they need to understand where they are as a team. And I think they're starting to understand that. I think that's the reason why they're not really making these extravagant moves. I think that's why they're not really fully committing to anybody right now. 1-year deals are on the table. Contract negotiations have to be set at a later date. I ain't got no problem with it. And I don't think you should have a problem with it either. Because I feel like right now what the New Orleans Saints are doing is recognizing what they are and who they are as a franchise. And I think that it was about damn time that they did this. And I think you should feel like it's about damn time that they have done this. Plain and simple. The worst thing in the world a person can do is not be honest with themselves. And that's what frustrates me about any organization or anything, when a person is not being realistic about who they are and what they are and what type of position that they're in. Like, you ain't got a lot to kick it. I respect you more for you understanding who you are and what you are as a franchise versus just telling me that we so close, when I can honestly see due to the eye test, you can see due to the eye test that there's still some work that needs to be done. There's some things that are good, but there's still some work that needs to be done in order for the Saints to have continuous success. We need to be able to sustain once the smoke clears. Adams will set us back. It sounds good, like income taxes. So absolutely no. Thank you very much for the $4.99, Delu. I mean, look, like I said, it depends on where you see the state of the Saints. No pun intended. Where you see this football team. If you feel like Davante Adams bringing them in, we're going to win the division, make a deep run in the playoffs, by all means, do your thing. But if you just feel like, okay, he's going to be on a team and it's still going to have some of the same issues that plague this team, winning one, losing one, playing pretty decent, being non-existent offensively some games, looking explosive the next game, looking like you're the best team in football one week, looking like what the hell happened the next. Wasting your time. Mickey has got to go. Mickey isn't going anywhere, Sydney. He's the general manager and the vice president of the team, which means he's third in charge of the entire organization. So you're pretty much asking a guy to fire himself, and I don't see that happening. Who would fire themselves? I don't think a person in this chat, anybody watching right now, will fire themselves. Josh, TJ, I've been doing a lot of internal mental work lately and been in a struggle lately. Internal work is hard. Keep me in your thoughts. Well, man, keep on grinding, man. Keep on working, staying focused. I mean, we all have like those issues, at times. I know I do, man. When I second guess myself, I wonder, am I doing the right thing? I wonder, why is it certain things happening? And then I just, sit back and I just enjoy the process. Life is about process, right? I mean, it's what they say is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, it sounds like a corny cliche, but it's true. I think that, sometimes we want things so quickly. We put so much hard work in and we wonder to ourselves, like, why is it not working out? But, I look at life like this, right? When you ride in a car sometimes, you ever rode on a highway and you ride and you just focus on the destination, right? You just looking, like you just straight ahead. Man, I need to get to this store. I need to get to this mall. I need to get to this I need to get to this spot right here, right? But you ever like got on the passenger side and just rode with somebody, and you may take that same highway every single day, but you might see a tree that you ain't see. You may see a building that you didn't know was there. Man, I didn't know that apartment was there. Man, they building over there. Man, you mean to tell me I could have stopped at that store right there? My point is, sometimes you got to enjoy the ride. It's not always about the destination. It's about the ride. It's about the little things that get you where you need to be. The trials, the tribulations, the ups, the downs, the disappointments, all those things. They make you who you are. They build you. They create you. And they're also really good testimony material for individuals when you get an opportunity to talk to them. You'll know exactly what to say. So, whatever you're going through in life, and not just you, Josh, but anybody that's probably, dealing with something right now, and just appreciate the moments. Just appreciate the moments, just appreciate the time, that you have, and enjoy it, to the best of your ability. And also, like, the things that you're working towards, appreciate the process. Like, appreciate the process. Those are the moments that's, going to drive you and motivate you and help you understand, like, what you're doing is not a mistake. Let's see. Sorry about your sister passing away. Sending prayers and my deepest condolences. I appreciate that. Says facts, got to keep up grinding and don't ride a bike in a day. Keep getting up. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I was teaching my son, how to tie a shoe today. And man, it was a little bit of a struggle, right? I mean, he was on the floor, he was frustrated. And once he like really got dialed in, when he tied that bow and he tied his shoe for the very first time, man, just the pride that he had, in being able to tie that bow. And, I think about that. That's a moment that I'm never, ever going to forget, and, it's, you think about like the frustration, you think about the pain and trying to figure some things out. But when you be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve, it's an amazing feeling. So for all those out there that trying to, grind, keep grinding, man. And when it doesn't feel like nobody understands, that's okay. One day the world is going to understand. They're going to understand, man. Sign Michael Thomas, we need an offensive line. I don't think Michael Thomas coming back under this regime, man. I don't think it's happening, man. Exactly, TJ. It starts with changing the culture first. Alliance built that thing from the ground up, drafting correctly, and a leader of men from a head coaching standpoint. Yep, you got to do it. That's the way that you grow. That's the way that you develop. That's the way that things start to work out for you. But it all starts with you taking a really good look in a mirror. Let's see. Take care, everyone. Hopefully we get Adams and the Who Dat family. We'll see. We'll see, man. Let's see. We need a number one receiver. So bring in Adams. Olave, not it. He a number two in my book. I think that he's a high-end number one. I do think that, there's certain things about him that doesn't scream number one. But sometimes I wonder, like, is my perception of Chris Olave got to do with Derek Carr? I'm sorry. I gotta say it. I'm just wondering. Like, I'm wondering, like, if there was a quarterback out there that wasn't really keen on self-preservation at times, keeping that completion percentage high, so checking it down, like something like Kirk Cousins did against the Saints, like throwing the ball up to Darnell Mooney. You think that Kirk Cousins was throwing that football and just thinking about, man, I came into the game with a 67% completion percentage? No, I'm trying to win a football game. I'm just wondering, like, can you throw that thing out there and let Chris Olave try to make a play? And not to mention, there were a couple plays on that all 22 I seen that Chris Olave was just wide open and nothing but space and opportunity. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen it too. So I'm just like, I look at him. There are certain things that I see that says, okay, he's a number one receiver. But there is a mind frame also I feel like that is missing that I don't know if Chris Olave has, but I think that he's talented. I think he's all around talented. How many passes he dropped this year? I'll wait. I don't know. Did he drop it? Did Chris Olave drop any passes? Did he drop any passes? Let me know. I mean, I don't know if you've been, excuse me, Rick. I don't know if you've been sarcastic or not. But I'm just wondering, like, did he drop any passes? I mean, I don't know, man. That was a pass, I want to say, when Derek Carr was rolling to his right and he had him in the end zone or whatever like that. But that was kind of like, he had to really kind of, leap out for that thing. I think Chris Olave is probably playing some of his best football in his career right now. But I do wonder, like, what would happen, like, if he had a gunslinging quarterback or something like that. Like that time when he played against the Carolina Panthers, he almost had 200 yards receiving because Jamie was just chunking that thing down there, like, shoot, Lobby down there somewhere. So I don't know. Maybe we will have a different opinion about him. If he had a little bit of a gunslinging quarterback and not somebody that's I guess just looking for the percentage. That's just looking for the percentage. Like, I think that I'm not saying that you got to throw the ball into like three, like double, triple coverage or nothing like that. But, you got to trust your guys at times. If we get Adams, would Kubiak need to change the playbook, TJ? I think he would to a certain extent, but not to a point where I just feel like they just got to completely move away from what they're doing right now. Man, we got 577 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button if you're here. Come on, man. 577 people. We should have at least 300 to 400 likes. At least 300 to 400 likes. Okay. So if you can hit that like button, I really appreciate that. Olave is that dude. Is Captain Checkdown. Captain Checkdown. Let's see. Dog Olave had 2 touchdowns wide open. Carr missed. Carr has been elite, dude. Elite? I don't know about elite. I wouldn't say the word elite, but I think he's played better than he has. Like this, like in the games this season, the first 4 games he's played better than he did like first 4 games last season. But elite, I don't know, dude. I mean, 12 points against the Eagles, that ain't elite, man. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I want to say elite. Made some plays, yeah. Elite? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I would have to understand your definition of elite, Ryan. I would have to understand your definition of elite because I would have to understand this is what I say. You mean delete. Oh, man. Look, I don't know, man. I just also feel like the bar has been like set so low now that, man, we kind of forgot what elite football play looked like. And I don't know, man. I don't feel like it's elite football play that I'm seeing. Elite football play, in my opinion, is you consistently putting forward numbers. Not like I think that the last minutes of the game is what is making people feel that Derek Carr is better than what he's actually playing. Like, to me, elite is making those plays in moments in the middle of the game. You know what I'm saying? Sustaining drives, putting the ball into the end zone, making those type of plays like consistently. Like, I feel like you can't be 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Last 2 minutes of the game, we drive down the field, we finally get a touchdown. Oh, that boy a beast. No, man. No. Now, I understand that you're going to face certain quarterbacks, you're going to face certain circumstances. When you're going up against a defense that you got to be able to, like, do certain things, and they may not happen for you. You might get neutralized, right? But at the same time, I feel that if you're that guy, then you need to consistently do it more so than you don't. And like I said, I don't feel like the New Orleans, like, I don't feel like Derek Carr makes anybody better on this football team. I feel like he does his job, but I don't feel like he makes anybody better. Like Rashid Shaheed, I feel like he would be knowing this no matter who the quarterback was. Chris Olave would be knowing this no matter who the quarterback was. You know, I do. Like, I don't see elevation. You know, like, I feel like elite quarterbacks elevate players around them. I feel like elite quarterbacks can take middle of the pack, middle of the road wide receivers and make them be flirting with a Pro Bowl. You know, that's how I feel. You know, I think that he's a solid, better than average quarterback, but elite, nah, bro. I think Carr has shown us who he is according to the last decade. I'm not going to completely defecate on him. Like I said, I think that he is an above average quarterback. Like, I don't feel like he's top 10 or anything like that, but he's like top 15, and that's cool. That's cool, man. But I just think that the bar is set so low. Like, I feel like that's like that's just blasphemy, like saying that he's elite. That's blasphemy, man. Based on like what we have seen, what an elite quarterback really looks like for 15 years, and Drew Brees, like, nah, bro. Nah. The Tom Brady's, nah, bro. Peyton Manning, man, we done seen good quarterback play. I just think that Saints fans, we just looking for stability, and we're substituting stability, or we feeling that stability means elite, and that ain't it. I will say he's talented. I will say that he's good, but I just think that if you're elite, Patrick Mahomes took Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Juju Smith-Schuster to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. You had one main target and a running back that's full of piss and vinegar, and Isaiah Pacheco, and you took him to the Super Bowl and won. That's elite. That's elite in my opinion. That's what elite means to me. Like, you know, taking a 5'0" wide receiver in Wes Welker and making him a leading receiver. You know, like, come on, man. Deontay, you know what I'm saying? Deion Branch, you know, getting, you know, like middle of the pack wide receiver and turning them to an all pro and getting them paid in Seattle. Like, that's what you call elite. I don't look at it that way. Say if the reps are elite. Hey, but you can't deny his talent though. You can't deny his talent though. Look, you can talk about the referees and screwing over teams to try to make sure that they're a playoff contender and a one seed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's fine, but it's not like that light-skinned boy don't be making them play. You know, say Mahomes is the cream of the crop. What do you call the cream of the crop, Ryan? Elite. I mean, look, if you're the cream of the crop, Ryan, what is that? That's elite. I ain't never heard nobody not call elite the cream of the crop. So when you say the cream of the crop, that's like you saying like that's elite. That's the best. Number one. But still, for me to be the cream of the crop, would you say Josh Allen is the cream of the crop? I say that. I say that he's cream of the crop. Lamar Jackson, I would say he's cream of the crop. Like, these are elite quarterbacks. These are the quarterbacks that I'm talking about here. Like, even Aaron Rodgers, I'll put him in that conversation. I mean, at what, 40, 41 years old? I really just feel like we have been removed from great quarterback play for a good little minute now. And what we're looking for is stability. So anybody that can kind of provide a little bit of that, we're looking at them a little, like, okay, man, that guy is it. Nah. I can't say that he's elite. I think that he's like above average. I think he's better than most. But you know, TJ, you see us beating the Chiefs Monday. I can see the Saints beating the Chiefs Monday. You look at the New Orleans Saints. They're a little banged up, but Kansas City, they don't have Rashee Rice. He's out for the season. They don't have Hollywood Brown. He's out for the season. They don't have Isaiah Pacheco. He's out for a few weeks. You don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. God bless that brother. I know he's going through a lot of things mentally, trying to get himself mentally focused. Travis Kelce. I mean, I'm still looking for him. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he needs to cut his hair again or something like that. I mean, messing around with Taylor Swift just took all his talent. He's just taking a victory lap right now. So they're banged up, but they got that good defense though. They got that good defense. I think that Chris Jones is going to wreak some havoc, man. If you couldn't stop Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, not say those brothers not good, but if you can't put the clamps on them, man, Chris Jones, since Aaron Donald retired, they don't get no better than that. This man, you can double team him and he's still gonna get to your quarterback. He's still gonna stop the run. So good luck with that. But other than that, I think they got a chance to win because I feel like that defense that the Saints have can travel and they can make some plays. But it's going to be tough. The person that said Carr was elite is rage baiting. I don't think, he probably think, but I just think that we've been so far removed from elite quarterback play that I think sometimes we're just looking for consistency and we're mistaking consistency or a level of stability with elite. And that just ain't it. I don't even give him above average. I think he's above average. I give him that. Hey, TJ, I really think the Chiefs and Saints will be in a tight game, but if so, the Chiefs are made for those games. Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to finish. And you had people, because I said I was out on Derek Carr and Dennis Allen, I think they got the indication that I quit on the team. No, I believe in this football team. I just think that despite their situation, they still going to be competitive. They're going to still fight. But I don't think that the Saints are that terrible to a point where they can't be in a game with the Chiefs. I just don't. So I don't. Yeah, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. TJ, if we don't get Adams, what you think about us getting Cooper? I wouldn't mind Amari Cooper, but I feel the same way. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to prove? What do you feel like you're going to attain? What if you're not talking about getting to the ultimate goal, winning Super Bowls, deep run in playoffs? Why would we be wasting time doing that? That's my opinion. I think that's a fair question. I think that's a good question that you're asking, Mad Drummer. I'm just wondering, when you go out there and you get players and you take on those salaries, that's a major commitment right there. And with that, you want a return on investment, right? I mean, that's what you want. You want a return on investment. So I would assume that the investment would be a playoff spot, possibly a deep playoff run, and a chance at the Super Bowl. So, and Ryan, you said, Ryan here, because this kind of coincides with my point here, says Adams would be a huge boost. He would. But the question would be, Ryan, what would that be a boost to? What would it be a boost to? A boost to what? Okay, from winning 8 games to 10, from I mean, what are you trying to attain here is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, he will be a boost and he'll probably, add to the Saints team and make it even more fun to watch, but is it going to equate to, you know, major success? Will it equate to the deep playoff run, the Super Bowl? Like I just feel like if you're going to make that type of commitment and take on that type of salary, it needs to be like worth your while. Yeah, I mean, that's just how I feel. The Crop, thank you very much for $2. Says Breeze is the cream and my top. Exactly. But it says you can't just plug holes when you ain't built the yacht yet. Pretty much. That's my whole point. That's pretty much sums up what I'm saying. But all in all, like I said, for those that were not here at the beginning, I'm not objective to the fact of getting Davante Adams. I think that would be a good idea. I think that he will help the team, but you have to ask yourself, what does that commitment mean? Are you, if the Saints don't make the playoffs, don't win the division, be middle of the pack, are you prepared to blow this whole thing up? And if that's the case, I feel like it's a waste of time. Like if you're not going to be fully committed to DA, you're not going to be fully committed to Derek Carr, you probably let him play out his contract and that's just going to be about it. And you still have Davante Adams on the book. Like, why? Like if you're not fully committed to the quarterback, and more than likely, if they make the trade, he wants to play with him. Is that something that you feel like you're going to be committed to? That's all I want to know. You can take a Davante Adams, put him on his team. Y'all can probably win 9-10 games. Maybe go to playoffs, maybe not. Maybe win a division, maybe not. But if it doesn't happen, then what? You basically starting from square one. And that opportunity, that second round pick that you probably gave up for him, that could have been another promising young player that could have been added to the team under some new leadership that can actually make your situation even better. So my thing is, what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to add? What do you feel like it's going to bring? What type of commitment do you have to this structure already? Are you willing to let this thing ride out even further? But if you're not making the playoffs in the postseason with every move and every situation that has been made under Dennis Allen, I mean, can Davante Adams be that much of a difference? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know, because I do feel like some of the issues that have been plaguing this football team doesn't really have much to do with the offense and what they have at their disposal. It's more so about the decisions down the stretch and maybe not making the right calls when the time comes. But I want to say thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. I really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody that donated on this episode tonight. State of the Saints podcast is powered by BETUS. Sign up. Get up to 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. All you have to do is download the BETUS app, or you can go to BETUS and use the promo code YouTube150. But you can follow me on X at TJAYJones8. Also, you can check out the Facebook page, the Gumbo Pot Sports Facebook page. Also, you can check out the NFC South Roundtable every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And also the Gumbo Pot Sports podcast that is available on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Make sure you subscribe. Before we go, I'm pretty sure some of you, heard, and we've been talking about it throughout, and I appreciate the kind words. But my sister, Leela Lewis, passed away a couple of days ago at the age of 42 years old. I saw her maybe a month ago for the Carolina New Orleans Saints game. And I just remember us just having a good time, laughing, joking, walking to the game. And I can remember me doing a show at the Little Easy. Shouts out to the Little Easy, man, 632 Julia Street out there in New Orleans. Shouts out to them. That was my first live podcast show, and they opened their doors to me, and I was excited about it. And I remember talking to her on a Saturday night, and she was excited about the game. Didn't really know what to expect. She learned about the podcast being there. She was like, she was going to show up. And I remember like when I was in the middle of the podcast, she walked in and, she asked me beforehand, she was like, what time are you going to be done? Because she wanted to get back. She wanted to get to the Superdome before the Who Dat chant. She liked when, the player come out and the players come out and they lead the Who Dat chant. So that's the one thing that I can remember. And also, man, she was just always supportive, man. Always like reached out to me, always talked about how proud she was. And I met my sister like kind of later in life, but she was always like really kind and a really sweet and wonderful person, So before we get up out of here, just want to just remember her. And like I said, the last memory that I had talking to her, she said that she didn't want to miss the Who Dat chant. So I just think it's only right that we give her one more Who Dat chant. Rest in peace.